welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, the series that celebrates and salutes the entrepreneurial spirit of India's micro, small and medium enterprises. Through this series, it is our endeavor to encourage the MSME sector of India that's really the backbone of our economy. On our discussion episode today, I'm joined by an eminent panel to deliberate on the Prime Minister's ambitious Make in India campaign with an MSME perspective. Joining me at our Delhi studio are Sarita Nagpal, Principal Advisor at CII, and Jayjeet Bhattacharya, Partner at KPMG. And from Mumbai, we are joined by Ramesh Swaminathan, CFO at Lupin. So welcome everyone. India, a global manufacturing hub over the next decade. That's the vision of the Prime Minister. Jayjeet, I'd like to start with you. How big is the opportunity really for Indian MSMEs? So
the opportunity is actually very, very large. If you look at any mature economy, especially economies which have a lot of innovation, be it the US economy, the German economy, MSMEs are a very, very significant portion of the economy. Now, India is at a point where it's just simply going to accelerate. And the acceleration is going to come from segments and programs such as Make in India, such as smart cities, such as Swachh Bharat, and so on and so forth. And I think we are all aware of all of these large programs that are coming up. And the combined investments for all of these will be at least $5 to $6 trillion. And to put that number in perspective, the Indian GDP is $2 trillion. So this will require multiples of the Indian GDP to execute all that we have, that we are talking about. Now, clearly, the larger companies also do not have the capacity to roll out and execute all that we're talking about. And that's where the opportunity for the small and medium enterprises and micro enterprises come in. Because who is going to produce the valves, the glasses, the nuts, the doors, the handles, and so on and so forth, that is needed to fuel this growth that we are envisioning. So
currently, we are at about 45% of the total manufacturing output as far as MSMEs are concerned. Do you see that going up, going forward?
That'll definitely go up. That'll go up in two different segments or two different matrices. So it's not just the amount, but also in terms of the jobs created. There'll be more jobs created through manufacturing in MSME, and also the amount of contribution that they're bringing in terms of value into the economy. So in both dimensions, there'll be more that MSMEs will be contributing.
Sarita Nagpal, you've been working with MSMEs at the grassroots level for almost 3 decades now. You've been with CII for over 27 years, if I'm not wrong. Tell us a little bit about when we are talking of the Make in India campaign, we are talking of making India the next global manufacturing hub. What are the sectors that are clearly going to be driven by MSMEs?
See, for the small and medium enterprise, it's largely the sectors which are under the Ministry of MSME, which is maybe textile, pharmaceutical, auto components, and leather. But all these sectors are definitely eligible for a number of the government schemes. So the Ministry of MSME has started a program for supporting SMEs, and the Quality Council of India is a partner with them to start that program.
Right. Mr. Swaminathan, 87% of the volume of the pharma industry really comes from small and medium enterprises. Give us a sense of what happens at Lupin. How much of your supply chain success depends on small and medium enterprises?
Well, at 87% of total of volumes in India, it's more than a proportionate share of, in fact, the entire industry, so to speak. In value terms, it comes to about 40–45%. SMEs in general are extremely important to the pharmaceutical sector across the entire value chain, so to speak. When it comes to India, for sure, it kind of dominates entire volumes, but it is useful across the entire value chain, starting from, in fact, a supply of intermediate, supply of packing material, supply of a lot of fine chemicals as well, going on to, in fact, other services, including BB studies, conversions, and the like. So for our entire value chain, it's extremely important. I would think that if we speak about, in fact, the sheer as a percentage of, in fact, our total outlays, it will be close to about 25 to 30% if you reckon all the, across the entire value chain. So from our perspective, it's an extremely important thing, and it's important that they also evolve and grow along with us.
Great. And traditionally, it was the big pharma companies that really dominated exports. But as far as APIs or even final dosages are concerned, do you see that changing? Are SMEs becoming the preferred choice for exports as well?
You know, there are more than 24,000 units which actually are present in India, catering to, in fact, the entire pharmaceutical sector. A large chunk of it actually concentrates on, in fact, the domestic sector itself. But there is tremendous scope for, in fact, generic products across the globe. If you look at the pharmaceutical industry, it's close to about 1.2 trillions across the globe. And a large chunk, at least about 180 to 200 billions, is essentially into generics. So there's a lot of value play that can be where the SME sector can actually participate in across the generic as well as into the ethical world. But it really depends on how do they also evolve. I would rather think that they should actually have a vision of becoming, not merely staying in the SME space, but actually becoming bigger.
Indeed, becoming big and having that aspiration to grow is possibly what drives the whole MSME sector anywhere in the world, really. But Jayajit, of late, there have been some attempts by the government with respect to ease of doing business, trying to get things online and simplifying processes for small and medium enterprises. What aspects of policy do you think need attention as far as MSMEs are concerned to really provide a conducive business environment to them so that they can contribute to Make in India?
Right. So let's look at the problem first. The most precious resource of any MSME is the top leadership, because it's one man or two people who are trying to run the business. Now, as the situation stands now, they spend most of the time, 12 months a year, in trying to manage taxes and trying to manage inspectors and so on and so forth. We are all familiar with that situation. But these are coming not from one government. It's not just a central government issue. It's a state government issue. It's a municipality issue. So there are three tiers of government which are involved. And in some cases, it's also the panchayat who's getting involved, because there's panchayat land involved and panchayat regulations involved. That makes the situation extremely complex. In many of the cases, the officers involved on the ground do not have a clear mandate and a clear set of rules to even address some of the new kinds of manufacturing that's happening. So many of the rules gets created on the fly. Now, to streamline all of this, it has to be a very close coordination between all these sets of government across all the governments we're talking about in India. And that's a very complex task to begin with. What we have seen is a very innovative way that the government has tackled that by creating, or what we call as unleashing, federal competition, which is each of the states are competing with each other to ensure that their rules become better and better for MSMEs and for all other industries for that matter. And the government just concluded one such ranking of the states where KPMG helped them and World Bank helped them, and what it led to was many of the states significantly making the process much, much easier. And that's going to have an impact on the MSMEs, and they will start seeing that as we move forward. In the next couple of months, they will see that it's becoming significantly easier to deal with the government. But that's just the first step to start off with. There will be a much longer journey that will be happening, and there will be many more schemes that are made specifically for MSME, because all that we talked about right now is true for every industry. So ease of doing business is happening for every industry. But MSMEs have a special requirement. Simple things like getting the skills in place. If you are perhaps making glass and you're in the glassware industry, the breakages right now because of poor skills is unacceptably high. And that has a cost implication on the entire industry.
In fact, skill development is one of the challenges that we are going to be talking about. But Sarita, CII has been doing a lot of work as far as competitiveness is concerned and really empowering MSMEs to be able to compete on a global platform. What have been some of your key findings in the recent past?
When we look at, this whole competitiveness dimensions, CII has 9 centers of excellence which are helping industry to become more competitive, and a large part of that support is for the manufacturing companies. And we have the CII Vanta Center for Competitiveness for SMEs, which is focusing primarily on the SMEs. Specifically for the SMEs, we find that there's a need for a lot of hand-holding. So we have services in the area of productivity, quality, manufacturing excellence, HR, support. Also in terms of their corrosion is another very important area which people don't talk so much about. And also we help them through what we call as our CII cluster approach, through the CI cluster approach, we are able to work with a group of SMEs together and help them to take them to the next level in competitiveness. Also, we have a very powerful program with the German government called the Indo-German Manager Training Program, which is specifically focused on SMEs in India to help them become global players for Germany. Okay. To begin with, they are actually taught how to even write their own profiles in a way that it is readable, understandable by the German businesses. And this is helping them to establish collaborations, establish R&D projects, become a supplier, become
so you're working on
innovator.
Both soft skills as well as
soft skills and hard skills to be able to take these companies to the next level.
We'll discuss that and more, but right now I'm going to take a short break here. On the other side, we'll discuss the labor challenge and the quality imperative for MSME manufacturers. Stay with us only on ET Now. Welcome back to Leaders of Tomorrow. On the show today, we are discussing the role of the MSME sector in the Make in India mission. Jayjeet, how crucial is the role of cluster development going to be going forward?
It will be extremely important. In fact, within cluster development, there are two kinds of clusters, the virtual cluster and the actual clusters, the traditional clusters. The reason clusters becomes critical, and I don't need to repeat that, I think most people understand who look at this segment, is that there is an economy of scale happening in terms of the supply chain, the logistics, the skills being available, and therefore also the ability to address the market as one large cluster. It's easier for people to also reach out to the vendors in the MSME cluster because they know where to go to. The government has taken several steps to ensure that the cluster development happens. Providing common tool rooms. I think there has been a large initiative from the government funded by World Bank on setting up these tool rooms. In terms of the technology center promotions that have been put into place, and these are also going to help in upgradation of the technology. And that upgradation is possible because there are clusters, and therefore you can have a very focused view of reaching out to them and upgrading their technologies. It'll be very good for MSMEs to also, from their side, find out where these tool rooms are, reach out to these tool rooms and ensure that they're able to upgrade their own technologies, because we have moved into a world where technology change is happening extremely fast. If we do not have clusters and if we do not have the support from tool rooms and from the various countries that the government is trying to marshal together to help the MSMEs grow, just like the German industry that Savita was just talking about, it will be critical for the MSMEs to have these technologies, imbibe them and upgrade them. And in that context, the cluster becomes extremely critical.
Right.
And when we talk about technology upgradation, essentially it also boils down to skills being developed, because technology is not a bunch of papers that are given in a book. So people have to be skilled, and therefore there has to be structured program in skilling, and the industry should be ready to reward those who are skilled. What we are finding is that there is no extra reward that the industry is giving for those who are getting skilled.
For those who are performing better than the others.
Exactly, and those who got a certification in that sense. And that defeats the entire purpose of putting the cluster together and skilling and technology transfer, because at the end of the day, technology means people who know things better.
Mr. Swaminathan, how huge is the labor challenge in the pharma industry?
This is not a asset-intense business. And to that extent, the total labor requirement also would be to that extent much lower, I would imagine. But I would think that as with every industry, there are three pillars that they actually stand on. The competitiveness of this industry itself, and three important parameters, so to speak. First is quality, the second is cost, and third is your delivery standards itself. On the quality front, you began this entire speech saying that, the Prime Minister has also been emphasizing on, in fact, a zero defect. And that's exactly what it should be when it comes to, in fact, medicines also. More important in the case of medicines. And the entire gamut of FDA regulations that the industry is facing is because of the fact that they glossed over what they thought was what is important from a quality perspective, from a regulatory perspective. That would be extremely important, and that would be absolutely not negotiable. The second is on the cost front. Any industry in the long term is going to be competitive only on two things, essentially on cost, or you need to have a differentiated product. So you need to be constantly benchmarking yourself and touching the frontiers of cost in every respect. And that would actually mean enhancing the overall throughput through the same capacities, looking at, in fact, yield management, input-output ratios, trying to squeeze more out of, in fact, your overall input itself, looking at rationalization of labor, looking at, in fact, procurement excellence, and host of measures to contain the cost. And third, of course, would be your delivery standards itself. You need to be on top of, in fact, all your supply chain metrics. It's not important that it's good quality, or for that matter, it's good. It's at competitive prices. It's equally important to be sure that you're able to deliver when you actually promise, and that's something that's extremely important from a world perspective. Because when you speak about, it's not merely India; it's also across the globe. When you promise a customer that you'll be delivering this quantity on a particular date, it's important that you deliver that. So all your fill rates, would be extremely important. On time, in full would be the key.
Those are some wonderful tips you've given to small and rising entrepreneurs to how to really make it big in the pharma sector. But it's interesting that you speak of quality, and of course that is the most important thing, especially in medicines. In fact, Sarita, what are the initiatives that CII has been taking with respect to increasing quality amongst your member partners, and how has the response been? What are the biggest challenges in getting an MSME to adopt quality measures?
Okay, I think Jayjeet also mentioned that there is a certain bandwidth that there is for the CEO, and how much time and pressure he is under on various factors, and when is it the right time for him to look at quality. One, of course, is the ecosystem, the environment in the sector. So, for instance, in the pharmaceutical, there is a huge pressure that the companies must be operating at zero defect. Similarly, we find in the auto component industry, this is a huge pressure for them to be operating at that levels. Quality actually makes a lot of sense, business sense, because if you don't make a defect, you don't waste money. So, for companies to realize that better quality makes better business sense, it doesn't take too long. Okay, so the main thing is to get to the right CEO and get to him at the right time when it makes a good business sense for him to do it. Once the chairman or the CEO has agreed to follow the quality path, the process is very simple. It's a very process oriented approach. Every process that you have, whether it is your manufacturing process or your procurement process or your sales process, all of them, they need to be broken down into simple parts, and you need to see where is it that you're making defects. And you just to make that, correct that, make a standard, train the people on it and get it going. The only thing is zero defect is very, very different mindset. It means if I've made a defect, then it's not zero defect. So I have to prevent a defect from being made. So we have to really make our processes so robust that you cannot make a defect. Okay, so that's the basic skill training that we are right now looking at. I believe that it's not only quality as a factor, but it's again a whole lot of skills which will help you make the right quality. It's also a lot of technology which can help you. You will need to look at some automation measures. Otherwise, many of these manufacturing processes will not be, if you keep doing everything manually, there will be potential of failures. Also, the kind of machines, equipment that you use in your manufacturing processes, they need to be robust, the tools that you use. So, there are a whole lot of other elements that need to be put into place.
Right.
But as quality is concerned, it makes a hell of a lot of good business sense, because it means...
And enterprises are recognizing that fact, because they realize that sooner or later it is quality that's really going to drive the business. Jayjeet, zero defect and zero effect. We've spoken a lot about the defects, but as far as environmental impact is concerned, do you think we are still very far away from the MSME sector realizing the impact on environment and really actively doing something about it?
No, I totally agree. I don't think the MSME sector in India today is seriously focusing on the impact on the environment. And there are many reasons for it. They are under cost pressures, they are under time pressures. We just heard from the CFO of Lupin that delivery becomes an issue. So in all of those other constraints, the impact on the environment becomes last on the priority. Now, that's not a good business decision, especially because Make in India is not just make for India. It's Make in India for the entire world. And the entire world is, in their procurement process, they're going to embed that how is it that you're manufacturing? Are you having an impact on the environment? And if you're having a significant impact on the environment, then procurement will not happen from these global clients. Pretty soon, the Indian industry is also maturing. And since we have a supply chain, and in that supply chain, the large companies will be looking at the small and medium suppliers to provide for their requirements, and they will be embedding in these clauses of what the impact of manufacturing is happening on the environment. And if the MSME sector is not scaling up, they will start losing business. Also, it's an entire matter of philosophy. If you are not taking care of the environment, you're also not taking care of your products. So just like what Sarita just mentioned, if they're not having zero defect, it's pretty much given that they will not also have zero effect. But it's a matter of processes, it's a matter of mindset, and once they get this right, they will have the right set of processes in place, they will have the right set of clients in place, the right set of human resource in place. And if you step up, it's essentially an issue of getting the right technology, the right process, and the right people. If they get all of these three right, they will get their processes aligned to a sustainable manufacturing and a zero defect manufacturing. So, so these aspects go hand in hand, which also adds up to how they market themselves. So when they're marketing themselves and they're putting the brochures together and they're talking to the Germans,
they need to be putting it out that they are environmentally responsible.
Absolutely.
And that perhaps
that becomes a very important and very cheap way of marketing yourself, because the cost involved is not that much more. But the impact it has on global procurement entities is very, very significant.
Right. All right, we are running out of time, but I'm going to give you all quick closing comments. So, Mr. Swaminathan, when we talk of Make in India with an MSME perspective, what is the lowest hanging fruit that a small or a medium or a micro enterprise, in fact, can really achieve without so much effort, that's easily achievable and doable, that it should be doing and it's not?
No, I think it's focus on quality itself. We heard our our co-panelists speak about the fact that quality means lowering cost also ultimately, because if there's no defect, it would actually mean the overall cost of production is going to be lowered. And if you do delivery on time, then you're going to be on a good wicket.
All right, Jayjit, one tip to small and medium enterprises to leverage the Make in India program.
I would say that look out, because we are in a situation right now globally where there are very good manufacturing assets which are getting sold at very low cost. And this is a great opportunity to go out in places like Europe and just buy off these infrastructure and these manufacturing facilities. This opportunity may not come again, and I would say they should go ahead and look at these opportunities to upgrade their own technologies.
Sarita?
Yeah, just building on what both of them said, I would only say that, you have to be strategic. I would say to the CEO, define your own USP. What is it that will make people come to you to buy, Become an attractive supplier to the global supply chain, to the PSUs, to the defense sector that you want to position yourself in. Get the positioning right and you're in business.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Thank you, Mr. Swaminathan, for taking out time for today. Well, the aim of the Make in India campaign is to take the contribution of manufacturing output to about 25% of the GDP over the next decade. Clearly, the success will depend significantly on how the MSME sector performs. And on Leaders of Tomorrow, we'll continue to get you all the news and views relevant to MSMEs. You're of course welcome to write in to us. You can write in to us at leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com or reach us using social media. Just remember to use the hashtag LOT and we'll track your queries. You can also call us on the number flashing on your screen and we'll get you all the expert advice right here on ET Now. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.